Hi, y'all. This is the Divine Journey of Self podcast, where we talk about and experience the Akashic Records, meditation, reality transurfing, channeling, and all things woo-woo and some good juju. My name is Rebecca, and I'm here to help demystify the mystical, and I intend to show you how truly divine your journey thus far actually is. Hang out with me for a little while and see if we can't help bring clarity and simplicity to your spiritual life. Hello, my gorgeous friends. I am sitting here after a little bike ride to the grocery store. It is quite cold in Sweden right now. In case you didn't know already, I am an American that lives in Sweden. And so I do not have a vehicle. I have a little electric bike that has a little cargo box on the front of it that I ride all over the place, and I absolutely love it. Although winter is coming, winter is approaching, and I'm a little nervous about what that's going to mean for me and my little electric bike. But anyhow, little rabbit trail there for you. But today has been super foggy, very ethereal, especially as the day that I'm recording this. This is the day before Halloween, so it feels very Halloween-y right now, to be completely honest. So anyhow, I thought I would take today on our episode number 3 and talk a little bit about some stories. Tell you a story and then read you a story about psychic powers. So I know we all love hearing kind of cool, positive paranormal stories. And that's what I'd like to share with you today. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about my story. So me personally, I absolutely love to go thrift shopping. I am a thrifty woman. I would have to say probably about 90% of the items that I have in my home and in my closet are either purchased secondhand through, some sort of either Facebook Marketplace or, a thrift store, or have been given to me. And so, yeah, I just absolutely love thrifting. No matter how much money I have, I love to go thrift store shopping. So, and I think that really comes from my upbringing, in that was like our main source of clothing and what have you. And there was a time where I carried a lot of shame around that, as, I was never good enough to have, the new thing or what have you. But now I just embrace it fully, and I absolutely love it and enjoy it. And, sometimes I get this really odd thing that happens, that sometimes I will get, as I like to call them, a ping that I need to go and visit a particular thrift store here in town. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-ish that I know of in my near vicinity, and one of my very favorite things to do when I go to a new city is to check out their thrift stores. And so sometimes I will, I'll be thinking, oh, I'd really like to do this particular project or do this thing for my home, or, what have you. And sometimes I'll get a ping that I need to go to a specific thrift store. And sometimes it's not necessarily, I don't get, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know that I'm going to find something really awesome there. And so I'll do it. And I have had many experiences where I had one day, and this was a very clear, very evident message that came through. I was looking online at some teal colored velvet curtains, and I really wanted to get them for my living room. And, I'm a thrifty person in general. I don't like to buy things at full price. When I even go into a regular store, my first place to go to is the sale area, just because that's just me. And so, I had said to myself, I don't really want to spend this much money on curtains. It just seems so silly to me. My life is quite transient. And so I make purchases that I feel like are going to be very long-term and beneficial. Or at least I try to. I attempt to. I'm not perfect. And so this particular day, I get a ping that I need to go to this one particular thrift store in town, and look for these teal aquamarine velvet curtains. And lo and behold, went to the thrift store, found them, got them. Super awesome. So another time, probably, I don't know, good year ago, probably, now that I think about it, I got a ping to just go to a thrift store and to just look. And sometimes this can be frustrating for me because I do struggle with quite a bit of social anxiety. And so if a thrift store is quite busy and crowded, sometimes that can get me just a little bit on edge. And I have to listen to headphones typically if I'm doing any type of shopping like this. And that just helps me to stay in my own emotional space and not tap into anybody else's stuff, because being an empath, being a highly sensitive person, being a clairvoyant, I can tap into other people's stuff and not realize it. And unfortunately, that's just not good for me. And so one way that I deal with that is to wear headphones all the time. Well, maybe not all the time, but most of the time when I go grocery shopping or when I go shopping in general. So of course, I'm wandering around and I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated because I'm not finding anything. And I keep on hearing, just keep looking. You're going to find it. You're going to find it. And I keep on browsing around and I'm just like, I'm not seeing anything here. I really don't want to spend money right now anyways. I'm not really sure what the whole point of this is. And then I come to the book section. And, living in Sweden, finding books in English is not always the easiest. It's not super difficult, I will say, but it's not always the easiest either. And so I go looking at all of these Time Life books that are lined up in the book area. And they're in English. And so, of course, I get a little bit excited whenever there's English books available, and I'm a avid reader, so I look and there are 2 books on the shelf, and their subtitle, I guess, would be Psychic Powers and Psychic Voyages, and the main title would be Mysteries of the Unknown. And I immediately just flipped the book open because I had, at that time, was really just starting to explore my giftings and how I can tap in for other people and what have you. And so, funniest thing, so I get the book home and I start to look at it. And the first story in the book is just so awesome. So I like to read that story to you. And it really cracks me up because, again, this is an English book by Time Life. I'd have to look at it here and see where it was published. It was published in the United States. So it's not a UK book. Sometimes, I'll get a UK book. Simply because it's the closest English-speaking country to Sweden. But this particular book is, it's an American book, and so it just is so funny. So the first story in this book, and there are many stories and many different topics through it, so we may come back to this book a couple different times. And the first story is called A Fire That Raged in a Mind's Eye. On the evening of July 19th, 1759, A pleasant party was beginning at the home of a prominent citizen of Gothenburg, Sweden. Suddenly, unaccountably, the most eminent of the 16 guests, the famed scientist and mystic Emanuel Swedenborg, left and walked outside without explanation. When he returned a short time later, he was pale and shaken. A fire was raging, he said. It had already destroyed a friend's house and now threatened his own. The guests exchanged startled glances, as they all knew Swedenborg did not live in Gothenburg, but in Stockholm, and Stockholm was almost 300 miles away. The party proceeded, but Swedenborg left the house several more times and returned to report the blaze was still spreading. Finally, at 8 p.m., he announced that it had been extinguished, only 3 houses from his own. By the next morning, a Sunday, Swedenborg's vision was the talk of Gothenburg. Had there really been a fire? Or was the 71-year-old's imagination running amok? An apparent answer came the following night, when an express messenger arrived from Stockholm with news of a great fire. 3 days after the vision, a second messenger brought more details. They matched Swedenborg's account of the blaze and confirmed that it had halted only 3 doors from his own and had ended, just as he said, at 8 p.m. Swedenborg was a respected engineer, inventor, and author whose intellect encompassed sciences ranging from psychology to zoology. When he was in his late 30s, however, he received what he regarded as a visitation from God. Thereafter, he turned his full attention to theology, metaphysics, and the exploration of his psychic powers, which seemed abundant. To many parapsychologists, Swedenborg's reported vision of the Stockholm Fire is an example of clairvoyance, the ability to see psychically what the eye cannot perceive. And I about fell out my chair when I read this story, simply because, here I am, this American living in Sweden, had been told that I needed to go to the thrift store to find something. I didn't know what I was looking for. And lo and behold, I find this book that the first story is about a Swede who, what did we say? 1759? Is that what we said? Let me look. Yeah, 1759. So, like 300 years ago? Right? 300 years ago? Holy Toledo. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, I genuinely believe, much like any other, medium, psychic, whatever label you want to throw on it, much like everybody else says, we all have these abilities. I have so many friends of mine that are like, I felt this weird feeling, and then I knew that, a family member had passed, or that a friend, was in need of help, or what have you. Or, my sister and I, my sister-in-law is what she really is, but I call her my sister because that's really what she is. Sorry, my dog has decided that he needs to come and join us, so my apologies if you get to hear my little noises from my sweet baby Elvis is his name, and he wants to be with me right now. Yeah, can you be quiet while we're recording? Thank you. Like the other day, I woke up quite ill, and she just knew. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you were on my mind the entire morning." I don't know what's going on. I was like, well, I hate to say it, but I was super sick, throwing up like crazy. So, we're all connected, and we all have these abilities. You're not crazy. You are beautifully divine. I'm going to keep this episode a little bit on the short side just because I think that's a good thing sometimes. Keep it short and sweet. That, hey, listen to those inner promptings. Listen to those weird things that seem to make no sense and go with it. It's okay. It's good things. You can trust yourself. So that's all I got to say about that. I love you all so very much. And once again, if you have a super cool, positive, paranormal, or, miraculous story that you'd like to share with me, please share it with me. I would love to be able to talk about it, talk to you, even maybe share it on the podcast. I think that would be super, super awesome. After all, this podcast is meant to be about you. So leave a comment or visit my website and send me a message. www.divinejourneyofself.com. If you'd like to book an Akashic Records reading with me, please feel free to do so from there. I would love to get in touch with you and to get to know you. And as always, remember, you are loved. Just flow with it. Everything is going to be all right.